Currently, the public media platform, the PMP, is facing a challenge. It needs to engage users to create metadata for its vast news archives. So, we've come up with a solution that addresses this challenge: StoryGrove.
StoryGrove is a community news interaction where users can cultivate trees of custom-tailored news content within their own virtual backyards. Each tree is a collection of content from the public media platform, and users can define how each story on a tree is related to others. This can be by common theme and content, by media component, or maybe just by elements that they relate to or want to bookmark later. So just like in nature, a grove is a single organism of trees subsisting off of a central root system. In the same way, each time a StoryGrove user seeds a story onto a tree, they're creating search terms to feed our growing root system and also generating metadata to go back into the public media platform. So in this way, users are streamlining the news experience for themselves and for the other news consumers around them just by showing interest in the stories that they already love. Users can further engage with each other by creating neighborhoods, adding some of their Facebook friends, adding friends from their email accounts, or even adding users with similar interests. Within their neighborhoods, they can visit each other's backyards, clone each other's trees, and then modify them in their own backyards to fork off that content and change it in a way that appeals to them. So as you can see here, our first screen in the app says you don't have any trees yet. Click here to start exploring the news. And this would be our empty backyard. Upon clicking this button, we'd be prompted to make an account. And let's just say right now we're going to make an account as our favorite curious giant yellow bird, Big Bird. So Big Bird created an account mainly because right now he wants to find all kinds of stories about cookies to share with his friend Cookie Monster. So maybe that's stories from CookieCon, from last year's PRX story on it, or even just new recipes. So we would look at his tag cloud on the next page, and you'll see a lot of different tags related to food. You'll see Mexican food, you'll see different noodle type recipes, and then you'll see something that says NASA. And this is one of the really neat things about our tag tree, is that it exposes users to content that they might have not otherwise been looking for. So Big Bird, being so curious, would probably hit this NASA tag and find a story on America's Test Kitchen, where PRX covered basically all the different kinds of food that astronauts eat while they're at the International Space Station. Now, Big Bird might be interested in this and then want to create a new tree in his backyard where he can just pin stories related to space.
However, sometimes our users might not want to have to change that into their categories to then change their tag tree entirely. So we've created this search function, which is pretty standard in most apps, that works off of keywords. But what's really unique about this in StoryGrove is that a user can interact both with community-driven content through trees, as well as getting the story results straight from the horse's mouth on public media platform content. So if I'm a user and I'm Big Bird and I want to know a story about space, I can type that in, and then I can see, oh, Cookie Monster's talking about how there's an espresso bar in orbit, and all of these trees on what he's creating. But if I just want to get the story straight from NPR, PRX, PRI, I can do that as well. So then this is the main menu, which I already showed you, and it's basically got how you're going to navigate through the app. So the Your News button will take you to that tag tree that Brittany showed you already. The Your Backyard button will take you to your backyard where you can grow and cultivate your trees and add and edit them and do whatever you want with them. The Neighborhood button will take you to your social media connection within the app. So basically you can connect and share content with users. You can say, oh, hey, I want to see what's on Cookie Monster's tree or what's on Brittany's tree, so I can go over there and see what's going on in their backyard. Then the profile button's got some really unique features. It's got the current rank system, which is basically a ranking system built off of tagging and how often you're tagging stories, how often you're sharing stories, how often you're connecting with other users. And then the other function, which Brittany briefly mentioned, is cloning trees. This is my personal favorite feature of our app because it basically allows a user to copy and paste someone else's tree from their backyard and put it into their own backyard. So if Big Bird wants Cookie Monster's tree, he can copy and paste it into his own backyard, and then he can add and edit to it. And this really creates a lot of relational metadata on the same topic that can be sent back to the PMP, because it's allowing users to interact with the exact same content but in their own way and building that metadata. The Categories button will show you your pull-out tab, which Brittany already showed you, so that you can change what you want to see in your tag tree.
As Jennifer has mentioned, we're going to collect relational metadata to benefit PNP. So here is how we make PNP smarter. So based on the existing metadata from PNP, user could search content based on keyword or filter the result by media type or other categories so that they could get tailored search result. From there, they could create their own trees. During the process, they need to provide tags for these trees. On the other hand, they could also seed news into these trees. They would also need to provide tags for the news. Meanwhile, all these tags for these trees would also apply to this news. All this would contribute to the current existing tag pools for all this news and make the search function even better in the future. On the other hand, our users Story Group is really like a GitHub for news because people could follow other users, like others' trees. They could also clone their others' trees by making copy to their own backyard. They could also fork the tree of other users and build on top of the tree so as to help others make better news organizations. All these user statistics we think is beneficial to PNP because it could tell PNP how stories bring people together, how stories define a community, and we will store all this metadata into our database, and in the future, we could be able to contribute to PNP in case PNP is interested.
So basically, we know Big Bird isn't actually who our audience member is. Like, let's get real. So we did 28 in-depth individual interviews as well as a focus group to discover who would be interested in this content, and we found that the age range of 16 to 29 is really who would be interested in this because of its features. Basically, that age range, as some of the other groups have mentioned, is facing a huge time constraint. They don't have time to be interacting with content, to be digging through their news feeds on social media. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on Google+. And who wants to have to literally dig with your finger through all of that stuff to find content? No one. So what StoryGrove is doing with the tag tree is it's pulling up that content generated by other users to allow users to see what's going on. To interact with stories. And it's also allowing them to save and organize those stories to come back to later. So, and this has been really successful as demonstrated by Pinterest, So if I wanted to save a food recipe onto my Pinterest board and then come back to it later to be actually able to make that recipe, I can. People really like doing that, and that's what StoryGrove is doing with news. It's allowing users to come back and interact with that content again and again and again if they want to. And it's also doing that in a really nice, gamified way by creating a fun, cute environment to do that and also providing that social media element as well so that you can connect with other users. So why StoryGrove? StoryGrove is providing users with that social community and that environment that is so key to public media. Public media is a public environment, and StoryGrove is doing that. It's creating that. It's engaging users to really interact with that content that public media providers are giving them. At the same time, it's also allowing them to interact with the content that they want. So if I want to follow Marketplace, if I want to follow Kai Ryssdal, I can. I can select business and economics, and that'll show me like all of his stories that come up into the tag tree. It's also creating that relational metadata again that can go back to the PMP, which is so interesting for them because then they can see what their user wants, and it's allowing the user to participate in their news experience. In that way, StoryGrove is making public media public. Thank you.